All right, now let's brainstorm and write all the test cases that we can think of. This is not a complete list. We may change or extend it later. So when we send a post request to this endpoint, how should this endpoint behave? Well, first of all, we want to make sure that only authenticated users can call this endpoint. So this should return 401 or unauthorized if client is not logged in. That's one test case. Assuming that the client is logged in, what is the next thing we need to check for? We want to make sure that customer ID is provided. And if not, we want to return a bad request. So we should return 400 if customer ID is not provided. Similarly, we want to make sure that movie ID is provided as well. So it should return 400 if movie ID is not provided. Now, it is possible that the client sends both the customer ID and movie ID, but we don't have a rental for this combination. Then we want to return 404 or not found if no rental found for this customer and movie. What is the next possibility? That we do have a rental, but that rental is already processed. In other words, the customer already returned the movie. In that case, we want to return 400, which means this is a bad request. So return 400 if rental already processed. So these are all the negative cases. Now let's take a look at positive cases. If we get to this point, that means we're processing a valid return. So we should return 200 if this is a valid request. We should also set the return date. So set the return date. Next, we need to calculate the rental fee. So calculate the rental fee. We should also add the movie back to the stock. So increase the stock. And finally, what should we return to the client in the body of the response? We can return the summary of the rental. So return the rental. So this is the rental with all the properties set. Date out, date returned, rental fee, and so on. So these are the initial test cases that I can think of. Over the next few lectures, we're going to implement each of these test cases one by one.